Who should be the next James Bond? There's the list out there, this conversation, this debate. The list of contenders grows. This has been a thing ever since they knew that James Bond, the current Bond, Daniel Craig, was going to be leaving. I believe No Time to Die is going to be his last movie. I'm sure that's going to be his last movie. I'm pretty sure, right? We have, yeah. So who's going to be Bond? There's discussions and rumors. We're going to have a black Bond. Idris Elba's at the top of the list for that. We're going to have this guy. We're going to have that guy. We're going to get into it on this episode next. I want to talk about it. I'm going to share with you my thoughts on Idris Elba. I'm going to share with you my thoughts on some of the other names that have been floating around the internet. We're going to go over a list. I'm going to give you my heads up on the whole thing and then tell you who I think should definitely, hands down, be Bond next. And that's also why we're drinking this vodka martini here. All right? Stick with me. Hey, welcome to That Guy Talks Movies. Quick thing, name change. You may have noticed this. Anyone who's been with the channel and is, the last few weeks noticed that I keep saying I'm going to change the name of the channel because of some discrepancies with fan film. It's a movie called Fan and people who make fan films. So Film Fan was hard to search and hard to find. So I had to come up with a name change. So name of the channel now is That Guy Talks Movies, which I'm sure plenty of my friends and family will be like, oh yeah, that guy talks and talks and talks. That guy talks. Anyway, I'm that guy. So That Guy Talks Movies, the name of the channel. Thank you for being here. For those of you who've already subscribed and have stuck with me on this journey, if you're new to the channel and you want to hear me talk about movies, my passion for movies and collecting movies, 4K content, this, that, and the other, streaming, hit the subscribe button along with the notification bell so you know when I put up new content. I truly appreciate having you here, and welcome. All right, so let's get into it. Bond. Again, this has been something that's been discussed for a few years now, trying to figure out who the next Bond is going to be. I'm going to start this off by naming who I think is the greatest Bond of all time. My favorite Bond would be Daniel Craig. Now, I know this is a question that's a generational thing. If you ask anybody from back in the day with the original Bond, obviously Sean Connery, he holds up as the greatest Bond of all time, especially if you're coming from that generation. And I understand that. I think that was a different time period in America. That was a different Bond. As far as film goes, he was more rugged, a little more edgier and masculine, not to mention in those films and television at the time back in the day, you could do certain things that were considered like taboo you definitely couldn't do now. So it was a little edgier and rougher, smoking the cigarettes, and he just had a thing about him, right? My generation Bond would be Roger Moore and then Pierce Brosnan for me. I totally forget about Timothy Dalton. But those guys lacked that whole masculine edge kind of thing. They were, Roger Moore was this cheeky older gentleman, kind of like you couldn't see him really winning a fight with like younger dudes. And it was all about the one-liners. It got kind of campy after a while. It got kind of like silly with the invisible car that Pierce Brosnan had in the movie with Halle Berry and all the crazy stuff. It just got out of hand. Then they decided to scale things back, start fresh, start new. They brought in a blonde Bond. Daniel Craig was at first sort of like, online, it was all sorts of like crazy pandemonium because this guy, the blonde guy, is going to play James Bond. But he has proven everybody that he's got the ability to do it. And he, as far as I'm concerned, he's the best ever. So with all that out of the way, let's get into who I think, well, I'll tell you at the end of the video who I think will be the number one Bond. But we're going to start with the list so far of the top contenders that are out there. Okay, so top of the list. Biggest rumored guy, the one that everyone wants, Idris Elba. Now, this will also be the time for me to tell you that I am not interested in them casting a black James Bond just to make a James Bond black. Like I don't believe that. I'm a black man, proud black man, black king. I am not interested in them taking a white character and making it black. Although Hollywood, yes, has a history of making Egyptians white, pasty white people. I get it. I don't want to make it a tit for tat thing and say, oh, we can make a white character black just for the hell of doing it, just to blackwash the. I don't believe in that. I don't think it's a good idea. I think that if they want to somehow make a Bond-like character or give Idris a different 00 number in the James Bond franchise, that would be fantastic. I don't want to see them make James Bond black just to make him black. I just don't think it makes any sense. And the reason I say that, there's one defense I can give you for that. I have a few, but the main one I can tell you is Reason I don't want to see that is because I don't want to see Brad Pitt play Shaft. When they remake Shaft, I don't want to see Brad Pitt or George Clooney play Shaft. Go with me on this. Look, if you have a compelling argument, a rationale that can convince me as to why they should make a white character, James Bond, a black man, just for the hell of doing it, let me know in the comments below, and I will happily entertain any reasonable, rational argument. And we can talk about it. All right, just let me know there, okay? But that's my take on that. So with that out of the way, though, let me just talk about Idris Elba. All of what I just said, let's just keep that. But know this. I don't think anybody out there, I don't think there's an actor that can compete with Idris Elba for the role. If they did make a black James Bond, I don't think anyone could come close to the man. You're talking about he checks every single box of perfection when it comes to the character James Bond. The looks. You're hard pressed to find somebody better looking, suaver, stylish. He's got the swag, the on-screen presence, the gravitas, the masculinity, the edginess, the sexiness. This guy has got everything. Like, everyone loves this guy. He's got the acting ability. He can do this role in his sleep. And I think he would even put to shame all of the Bonds before him. That's how much Idris Elba, as far as I'm concerned, ticks off every single box to play Bond. He has every possible characteristic you can imagine, and then some. And then some to play the role. I just don't want to see a black James Bond. So I'm going to move on past that. Now, with that said, there are a couple of other people on these lists that are out there where people are talking about who could be Bond. One of them is Reggae John Page, the guy from Bridgerton, who I think is a little early yet to tell. I think he might be a little too pretty as well. And in Bridgerton, I mean, yeah, he's charming, he's suave, he's a good looking dude, right? But again, he might be a little too pretty, and we don't know his physical prowess and ability to actually handle a role like Bond. So he's got to be battle tested. We don't really know about him. Another name that's coming up, another black man coming up, Daniel Kaluuya, who I love as an actor. I think he's a fantastic actor. I don't want to see him as Bond. John Boyega from God knows, he's been in a few films, but the Star Wars films totally set me off on him. I'm nowhere near interested in seeing that guy play Bond. I don't think he has it. I don't think he has the looks to play that role. As far as acting, I haven't seen him do anything outside of what has tainted me and what has spoiled him for me, which is the Star Wars movies. Those last 3 Star Wars movies, him and Oscar Isaac's running around as Poe and Finn, and their witty, corny Star Wars Lucas dialogue was so shitty and so annoying to me that if I see John Boyega, like, it just, I'm going to have to see him do a role that totally removes that stain of Star Wars. So John Boyega as James Bond is like nowhere near a thought for me, but he's on a list. So that's why I brought him up. All right. So let's get into the other contenders on this list. Tom Holland. Oh, by the way, this was a list that Esquire put out. What I did was I did a search just seeing who the latest, earlier I did a search to see who the latest Bond contenders were and if there was any, new ones added to the list. And I found Esquire did one about 4 days ago. Esquire put out this list. So I'm kind of going off their list. Now, Tom Holland. No. Spider-Man. No. Absolutely not. This guy, I think I like Tom Holland, so let me just say that. I think he's great as Spider-Man. I think he's the best Spider-Man we've had. I want to see him stay in that universe. I don't want him crossing into some serious role playing Bond. I don't think he has the actual physical ability to do that role. He's got nowhere near the masculinity. He's got boyish charm. That's what Tom Holland has, boyish charm. He's like Michael J. Fox of this generation. And Michael J. Fox, even now, at his age, is still boyish and has boyish charm. That's what Tom Holland's going to have. So even if Tom Holland waits 25 years to play Bond, he's still going to be boyish to me, and he's still going to be Spider-Man. He's still going to be Peter Parker. So no Tom Holland. Let's move this to another Tom. Let's go to Tom Hardy. I say no. No to Tom Hardy. Why? I don't want Bond to be mumbling through this role. I don't want Tom Hardy mumbling his way through playing Bond. I think Tom Hardy is a likable dude. I think he's a great actor. The roles I've seen him in, I don't have a problem with him. I just think that he's rugged enough, he's edgy enough to do it. He's got that thing about him. It's a brute kind of thing. But I think he lacks the finer edge of sophistication that's required for the role. And I think that he doesn't have the eloquence when it comes to delivering lines and things. He's mumbled his way through just about every role. So I just can't see him playing Bond. I think he lacks the upper echelon of like that pure sophistication and suaveness. Okay, so no to Tom Hardy. Another on the list, Cillian Murphy. How do you say his name? Cillian? I've always said Cillian Murphy. Okay. I like this guy. I think he's a fine actor. I think he's got that steely-eyed kind of interesting thing that keeps you watching him on screen. He's interesting. His delivery is always quite interesting. I don't think he's got the physical ability to do this. I just don't think he can do it physically. And I'm not 100% sold on his sophistication. I love him in Peaky Blinders, and I think in that role he's fine. I've liked him in the things he's not like when he played Scarecrow in The Dark Knight and Batman Begins and such. I liked him in Inception. I liked him in Dunkirk. You know, it's a small role. I like him. I just don't see him as Bond. Okay, so no to Cillian Murphy. No. Robert Pattinson. Here's the deal with Robert Pattinson. I can actually see him as Bond. I didn't say that until I saw Tenet. When I saw Tenet, for some strange reason, I actually left the theater thinking, wow, he could be Bond. I had no reason to think that, but it's the same thing with the Batman thing, right? He's playing Batman, and then the Batman, the next Batman that's coming out. I did a trailer review for that. If you haven't seen that, you can watch it on this. I'll put a link up here. But most people tied Robert Pattinson. He went through that whole thing where he was suffering over the Twilight movie, you know, the pale face vampire thing. So he was kind of like he couldn't get out of that for a while. But he's a respectable actor, good looking dude. He's got the wit, and he does have an interesting sort of chiseled look. And when I saw him in Tenet, and I saw the way he was, his movement and the way he delivered lines with John David Washington in that movie, I actually looked at him like, man, that guy could be Bond. I really thought that. So I'm not sold on him. I think he's lacking, again, going back to the physicality, he might be lacking that. But I'm not so against Robert Pattinson playing Bond. He could possibly do it. Riz Ahmed. Great actor. No question. Don't think he can do it. Doesn't have the physical ability to do this role. He does not command any kind of presence on screen as far as that goes. He is not a rough guy. He just does not have that. I think he's a great actor. I just don't think he can play the role. So no to Riz. Henry Cavill. I like Henry Cavill. I'm a Superman fan. I like Man of Steel. I think it could have been a little better, but I love Man of Steel. Okay. I liked him in Mission Impossible. The last Mission Impossible. I think he's got the physical skills, the height, the size. He's believable in a real fight. He's got that old school fighting technique. If you see that in Mission Impossible, I don't know if that was just for that role or whatever, but the way he fought in that, he's got that old school kind of this thing going on. And he's got that brute strength and that kind of look. He's chiseled as all hell. I just not 100% sold on him. And part of that is just my take on him being Superman. Whenever someone becomes Superman, I kind of just want to leave him as Superman and don't want to see him do anything else, but that's just a stupid thing with me. So Henry Cavill could play it, but I'm not 100% sure. Something about him might not work for Bond, but who knows? We'll see. Okay, now I have a particular two that are on this list as mentionables. Now, one of them, so far I haven't heard anyone mention, and it's like just a personal pick of mine, like an obscure actor who I personally think would do a great job. Okay. And then another one is almost the same, but he's on a couple of lists here and there. All right. The first one is Jack Bannon. Jack Bannon is playing on the epic series called Pennyworth, which is basically the story of Alfred Pennyworth. So Bruce Wayne's butler, for those of you who don't know, I'm sure most of you do. Bruce Wayne's butler, Alfred, the guy you're used to seeing as the old guy, serving Bruce Wayne. He has a backstory. Funny enough, everyone has a backstory. He's got a backstory. And he's played by this guy named Jack Bannon. And Jack Bannon's got some on-screen wit, charm, swag. He's a good-looking kid. The only problem with Jack Bannon, he might be too young. So if they go to direction of casting a younger Bond, which I believe they might be going that direction, then Jack Bannon might actually fit in there a little bit. But I think another 10, 15 years and he'll be ready for the role. So if you don't know who he is, go ahead and check out Jack Bannon. Maybe just Google him or look on YouTube and you'll see who I'm talking about. The next guy on the list, James McAvoy. James McAvoy certainly has the acting chops to do this role. I just think he's too small of a man. I'm not sure his exact height. I don't think he's got the on-screen presence and the physical ability to handle that role. So I say James McAvoy. I like him, and I see him on list, and I understand that it's a possibility, but they'd have to go in a really weird direction with a guy being that small. And again, I don't know how small he is, but he comes off as not necessarily a guy that you'd believe could get into a street fight. He did a good role though he was in Atomic Blonde with Charlize Theron. That was probably the roughest role I've ever seen him in. He was tatted out. He was kind of like, his head was shaved, and he was kind of a badass in that. But even there, he's not believable. He couldn't do the Bond stuff. So James McAvoy. Now, that brings me to my top two picks. Both of them are equally on most people's list. First one, Turkish. Funny name for an Englishman, I know. Bacon from Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. Turkish from Snatch. I'm talking Jason Statham. Jason Statham pretty much ticks off every single box as well. He's got the looks, he's got the charm, he's got the on-screen presence, he's got the gravitas, that steely-eyed look. He's got that voice. That is the distinct voice. He's got that physical ability. He's ripped. The guy can handle the role and all the physicality. So he ticks all the boxes as well. Problem is, are they going to go for a bald Bond? It's not even like bald. What is he? He's like the I'm sexy, too sexy for my hair thing. Where it's like, he's not really bald. He's bald here, but he's got like the fur, like a little bit of fur. So it's kind of like a cool, edgy bald kind of thing. Speaking of which, I'm not bald. I shave my head. Do you understand? Those of you who know Kill Bill, you'll know where that just came from. I do that occasionally. Anyway, moving right along. But yeah, Jason Statham, I think he ticks all the boxes. I just think it's going to come down to whether or not they're going to, open up the bounds to a bald Bond. And I think they should, because he's definitely got it. All right. Now, number one on my list. I've been saying this for a long time, a long time. My top pick is a gentleman, Michael Fassbender. This guy ticks off every single box. Few of them do. Again, Idris ticks off the boxes. Jason Statham, Michael Fassbender. And Michael Fassbender, I venture to say, is the best actor out of the entire bunch. When it comes to overall dedication to the craft and his ability to act, he is the greatest on-screen actor. Now, I don't mean of all time. I just meant we all know who the greatest on-screen actor is, Daniel Day-Lewis. But as far as the James Bond contenders, this guy has everything. I've been saying this since I saw him in First Class, X-Men First Class. He was like running around and he grabbed like a machine gun from the dude and he like swept the guy's feet and ran across the grass. And he just has that thing. He was in Brazil killing the Nazis and doing his whole thing. He's got that look. He's got intensity. Michael Fassbender is way up on my list, number one on my list. Inglourious Bastards, playing that whole role, and the British soldier going in and playing the German soldier in the basement, and you don't fight in a basement, and he's in there doing his... Look, Michael Fassbender, I don't have to really sell you on this. If you're paying attention to Michael Fassbender's career, you've seen any movies with him, and you know who I'm talking about, then you know as Bond, he checks all the boxes. So Michael Fassbender is my number one pick. We'll see how this whole thing plays out. I don't know when they make decisions. I don't know how this whole thing works, but I will keep you posted. If I find anything out new, I'll let you know. If they do go with Idris, hey, more power to them. Personally, again, I don't think it should happen that way, but that's my take. Look, let me know who you think should be Bond. If you have an obscure pick, like some random actor who most people don't know about, but you think might be a good contender, let me know in the comments below. I'd like to entertain the idea. I want to know. Share with me, okay? If you like this video, I truly appreciate that. Hit that like button. And again, if you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you know when I put up new content. Thank you for sticking with me. Thank you for going with me on this new name change. That Guy Talks. That Guy Talks Movies. Me, I'm that guy talking movies. All right, I appreciate everyone for checking out the video, and I will see you on the next one.